Welcome to the Faces podcast. We're a Christian and Muslim charity working to build resilience in faith communities against child sexual exploitation and other forms of harm. We'll be talking about what faith and interfaith work means to us and how we embed an inclusive and authentic approach throughout our work.
Hello and welcome to our Faces podcast. I'm with Zaffar at Inspire FM, and Inspire FM is one of the partners with Faces, and I'm one of the staff members of Faces. And so I'd like to ask Zaffar if you would, you've been involved with Faces since the beginning, is that correct?
Yes, that's right, yes. Thank you, Nigel, thanks for giving me the opportunity to have a conversation with yourself about Inspire FM. Inspire FM has been one of the organisations, or I've been representing Inspire FM as a face on Faces effectively, and I think since the inception. Although I've not been around as much as some of the other guys, like Sujo, etc. I worked during the day, and it was a bit difficult for me to actually attend the meetings. But I have been in the background, and I've been supporting where I can.
Yeah, that's very good, and we really appreciate that. And it's just so good to have so many good organisations involved with Faces. I'd like to just ask a couple of questions. I understand you've had a 25th anniversary around December. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes. So Inspire FM has been broadcasting in Luton in a couple of different guises since 1997. So we've been around for 25 years. We started off as Radio Ramadan in Luton on a 1 month sort of trial, once a year broadcast. We started that in 97, and over the years we've kind of grown into a more permanent community radio station. So it has been 25 years, and I think we've been involved in lots of activities other than broadcasting as well. So I've been, I think, as a group of people who are involved in Inspire FM, they've been in the community for quite some time, doing some sort of really good sort of community voluntary work, etc.
Yeah, I've just with COVID and things like that, I began to realise the value of radio and its ability to build community.
Absolutely.
And to bring people together. Did you find during COVID you were very active in that? Did you help bring community, get messages out?
Absolutely. So initially, I think, like many organisations, we were a little bit shell-shocked. We were a little bit unprepared for what was to come. We had an incident in our radio station very early on, which meant that we had to sort of operate in a slightly different way. We had to operate remotely rather than being in the studio itself. But once we realised that the immense impact it was having on everyone's lives, we thought we had a role to play. And one of the things that we started off straight away was obviously being a focal point for messaging, so passing on signposting. And not only did we do that on radio, but also we did that using other means like WhatsApp as well. So we set up a community WhatsApp group, around 1,000 people or so from all different backgrounds. And as the information was being relayed from the authorities, we were actually messaging that. We were passing that on to the public. But further on, I think one of the things that we had to do during the month of Ramadan, during COVID, was we realised that some of the mosques, the local mosques, who are heavily reliant on donations from the people who come to worship, because they had been closed down, or a very small quantity of people were allowed to come and worship in the masjids. They were actually some of them were actually in a very difficult financial situation. So we used the radio platform to allow them to raise funds. So there were some appeals done, and quite a few mosques basically took the opportunity and they raised money for themselves to sustain them during that period of time.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realise the importance of getting messages out. Because so many rumours do the rounds in community. You can end up with absolutely wacky stories doing the rounds. Indeed. Having somewhere clear that's putting a message across, this is how things are, is a very powerful tool, especially in a time like that.
Indeed. And we were very cautious that there was that tendency to have hearsay and whispers. We relied basically on information that was from the authorities, trusted from the authorities, and we relayed it as much as possible. There was a temptation. You must have seen a lot of it. People giving lots of different advice into what to take, do this, that, and the other. We try to stay as much as possible on the facts, and encouraging people and trying to give positive stories as well, because people are feeling a little bit fearful. And when we started these messaging and signposting activities, there's a few local charities as well who rose up to the occasion, and they started knocking on their neighbours' doors and giving them supplies, and people doing recordings and sending to us to say, look, we've done X many streets today, we knocked on this, and this old lady, she was all by herself, right? She didn't know what to do, she was really quite scared. We were able to go and speak to her at the doorstep and reassure her, and we gave her a food parcel as well to sustain her, etc. So we kind of generated that little bit of a community spirit as well. I think during that period it was very important.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and it's so important, that community radio and that community voice, and earning that trust over a length of time as well.
Indeed, and that kind of thing was we felt that that kind of a random sort of. Random acts of goodness, effectively, right? It was contagious. People started doing that themselves, and they started saying, I've done this and I've done that, and we kind of shared that with other people as well, and kind of encouraged everyone else to do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot that comes from that, and I think what I've worked out over time, longevity matters, and when you've got a consistent longevity into something, it has a massive impact, and it's something you can't just pop up and do. It's something that comes from that history, and I think that's great. You mentioned that you started as Ramadan Radio, and I'm guessing it was part of the festivities around Ramadan and communicating with people.
Indeed.
And so could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when we actually started back in 97, there were a number of different reasons why we felt that there was a need to sort of communicate in a slightly different way to the community. And I have to say, Luton has been very unfortunate in the sense that it's attracted a lot of bad publicity, negative publicity from all sorts of reasons, some justified, some not justified. And we were going through a period when the Muslim community was under intense focus, basically, local newspapers, national newspapers, etc. And stories were being told on behalf of Muslims, and we felt that not all of them were representative of what the community was, and we needed to have a genuine say. Right. So what we wanted to do was not be the representative of the community, but allow the community to express themselves. And we felt that the community lacked that little bit of a confidence, in able to sort of put their views across. And we thought that platform, a radio platform, allowing volunteers to come and speak about issues, etc., would gently encourage them to actually sort of talk about themselves, talk about the issues from their perspective, and give their views in a kind of a more less threatening sort of environment, right? It's their radio station. They can say whatever they like to a certain degree, and have their opinions heard. So that was kind of what was brewing in the background. We just needed a focal point, and the focal point was Ramadan. Ramadan is a special occasion. There is a need to communicate during Ramadan. There's always things about timing, the sunrise, sunset times, etc., and all those type of things. And also to create that vibe, to create that energy in the month of Ramadan, to allow people to sort of fast and allow themselves to sort of tell others that they are fasting, etc. And we found there was a great amount of energy in it. We found that people were, really receptive to it. So that's how it started, and I think we were probably the third radio station in the country. I think the first one was Bradford, who started broadcasting in the month of Ramadan. So the formula started from there, really. But we found that the focus and the intensity and the attention turned to radio more often in Ramadan itself.
So just to satisfy some of my nerdish curiosity, the getting an FM radio station must be a huge task. Nowadays we do everything on the internet. It's very easy. You can pop them up anywhere. But to try and get a license for that, to try and work that through, there must have been a lot of work that underpins. And I think tying that together with you being a voice for a community and helping a community feel heard and know that they're heard and not have other people speaking on their behalf is a very powerful thing. Was that a lot of hard work?
Indeed, it was a lot of hard work. As you've said, it's become a lot easier over the years. Obviously, we didn't have any background in radio. We didn't have any background in broadcasting. So everything we had to learn from scratch. So our initial attempt to start radio broadcasting was in 1996, but we abandoned it because we didn't have the skills, basically, right? And even the technology at that time wasn't really that great. So we were relying pretty much on tapes. CDs, I think, were a slightly later invention. We had the mini discs that came shortly after, but none of them were really conducive. You couldn't really sort of say you start a program, right, and you can press a button and the program will run by itself. There's a lot of tape winding and a lot of scheduling and a lot of planning had to go into it. And so, yeah, we learned and we persisted, and we were fortunate that there were lots of people who were prepared to volunteer, come and help us. And in fact, everyone was volunteering. It's all done on a voluntary basis, and there's a lot of heads together. We managed to find solutions and managed to sort of get ourselves off the ground in 1997. But once you get going, basically, right, it's there's that momentum. It carries itself, and during the month itself, I mean, when we started, we only probably had about a day's worth of programming pre-planned. You just couldn't think that far ahead to be able to say, oh, we're going to do this and the other. But we had such a tremendous response from the community. People just turned up at the door and said, oh, we want to do a program on health. We had doctors, right, volunteers to say, well, we want to do something on aspects of health. We had, I remember somebody who was quite senior at the college, right? She volunteers and she said, well, I want to do a program on issues to do with ladies, right? So all of a sudden, right, with only perhaps a day or 2 days worth of programming planned for, all of a sudden you had people coming in and were talking about different aspects of the issues within the community, and it just kind of, it all naturally gelled together. I mean, well, obviously I believe in the divine, right? And I believe that obviously, if your intentions are pure and you're doing things for the sake of goodness, effectively, right, then there is divine support for you. And I think we felt that in Ramadan.
That's very good. And so you're saying that the messaging of health with doctors and so on, with Faces, our message is Christians and Muslims coming together to protect against child sexual exploitation and things like that. And so that kind of messaging is that safety message part of what you put out as well.
Absolutely. I mean, interfaith was discussion with other groups was there right from the beginning. Right? We did specials. We had people coming from other faiths. We did a series as well on radio on the different faiths as well. We had representatives from the Catholic Church come and do our programs here. We had people from the Sikh community, from the Hindu community, from the Buddhist community, etc. So we kind of covered. The focus was Islam primarily, right? But we wanted our people to have open the doors on other people within the community, and we had representatives from the Luton Council of Faiths basically regularly on our radio station. Peter Adams he's been a face regularly on our radio. He's appeared many times. Whenever there's an issue which concerns the wider community, Peter's there. He's got a slightly different voice. So yes, it was Ramadan, it was spiritual, it was health, it was community issues, it was everything really. So we tried our best to sort of try and use the platform to give as many voices as possible. Yeah,
no, that's fantastic, and I think that's what I've discovered about Luton. It actually is a very cohesive community.
Indeed.
And there's a lot of interaction between different people from different backgrounds, and the communication of those different things is really a very helpful thing because it breaks ignorance, it breaks down all of that, and you can build society far better. So, it sounds like that you're right in the front line of some of that.
To be honest, whenever Luton is characterised in a particular way, I always found it alien. I've worked primarily outside of Luton, and primarily Luton has got a negative, but they have a negative opinion of Luton, and I try to challenge it as much as I can. And it's a perception, and the perception is given from people pick up perception from different ways. They pick it up from media, they pick it up from the experiences, the negative experiences, etc. And they naturally draw their conclusion and trying to sort of summarize it into a whole community. But Luton there's a lot that is positive in Luton. There's a lot that happens. There's a lot of cohesion in Luton. A lot of people look out for each other in Luton. And recently, I'll quote, there's a survey done, I think, on one of the fundraising websites, that they found that Luton was third in the whole country in terms of being generous. Mm-hmm. In terms of donations, etc. Yeah. Only behind Bedford. I mean, Bedford, still is stone's throw away from here. And like I said, it's an example of a positive thing that's happening in town. Mm. But unfortunately, positive things don't tend to attract headlines as much as negative things. But that's the times that we're living at the moment, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think with Faces, one of the things we're very keen on is how people's faith help them do things.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And I just wondered, is that something I can ask you about? How does your faith help your approach to life?
Fundamentally, I think faith is at the heart of everything that we do at Inspire FM, and individually as a person as well. That's a driver for me. Whenever I have interactions with people outside of Luton, when it's a work environment, or I always, to me, I'm not doing a job, right? I'm trying to relay that I'm a person doing a job, and there's a personality behind that, and that personality is driven by good. Right, and in actions in terms of doing 110% to help others, right, if you can, in doing what you're doing, being 100% truthful, right, to whatever you're doing, and being honest with what you're doing. So that doesn't come from you saying so, but it comes from your actions. Mm-hmm. Right? Your actions speak that this person is trying their best to try and help, help me in trying to get over this particular task that we're working at. So it is a reflection. I try as much as possible to make it a reflection of my character, and I am a spiritual person, and I am a person driven by a desire to be closer to the one being, really, in terms of the actions in this world.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's great to have the chat like this and also get to know you better.
Brilliant.
And look forward to working together, see more good things in Luton.
Absolutely. I must say, Face is an absolutely amazing organisation, right? In a sense that not only is it trying to tackle a very, very difficult issue, but try to tackle it in a way that's constructive, and it's a whole community approach. It's not just finger pointing at one community or the other. It's trying to say it's a community issue, right? And we're going to try and deal with it as a community, working together. And I think it's very positive indeed.
Well, thank you very much, Zaffar, and all the best.
Thank you indeed. Thank you for giving me the time today. Thank you.